So from there, you went on to work for the Canon Film Group, and you did a number of films with Menahem Golan. You do hear a lot of horror stories coming from behind the scenes, sort of years later, of what went on at Canon Films. What was your personal experience like of working with Canon Films, in particular when you were doing the ninja films with Sho Kosugi?
When I got this film, I was prepared, but at the same time I was so excited because it was my first huge chance. I coordinated little things before then. It was my first big opportunity, and and uh, and what made it greater, I had learned while I was doing it, is because it was low budget and because of the people I was dealing with. It schooled me day by day. It taught me things that maybe it would take me years to learn because these people in Canon Films, they were so wonderful, but they were so different and so unusual. Uh, the bare bones, the arguing, the discussions, the way they go about things, the way they have conversations weren't the normal. It wasn't working. It wasn't like working for, my past TV shows or movies. This was working for an Israeli company, Menahem Golan, and he had his own rules and he had his own ways. They had his own ways because they were all following. So when I walked in there, you got to remember 98% of Canon films were all Israelis.
Yeah.
None of this, you'd walk onto a show and it would be 98% Israeli and 2% American or whatever, literally. And so when I got Revenge of the Ninja, in in the learning respect, it was so wonderful because I had to deal with so many personalities, and it taught me so much so quick. Because it was a wonderful, crazy movie, and I always say a stunt coordinator is very similar when it comes to dealing with people to psychiatrists. You know, People don't realize you're head of a department, the entire action department, whether it's one day or 3 months or a year, you're in charge of it. So you're talking to every department. And when it comes to Canon Films, every department was Israeli mostly, and they all had their way, and they were all didn't understand the American way. Luckily, I was taught two ways. I was taught the old-fashioned way, meaning from the old timers, to the expensive way of doing things. And Canon Films was notoriously, cheap. So I was way
Yes.
ahead of the game, as far as knowing how to get things done. And on top of that, there was so many things that benefited me there because, on one hand, I was writing all the action. The pages were blank. I was creating all the scenes, all the action scenes, all the moments, the special moments, all the stunts, all the fights, writing them down, designing them, putting them in the script. That was a wonderful experience that I never had to that extent. Uh, on the other hand, because they were so cheap, I couldn't afford everything that I had in there. So I had no choice but to do it myself. I mean, I could sit with you on Revenge, besides being the Silver Masked Ninja, I can sit there and I could literally, say, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. You'll get sick of it, because I didn't have any money. And if I wanted it in the film, I'd have to do it because it's an expense to hire somebody to do it. So I would have to do it. So
So
that
you would do it. So.
stuff happened 4 or 5 times a day. Otherwise, you just have an empty scene, with the two lead guys, and then dealing with so many people. and to such an extent and having so much control, thanks to Sam Furstenberg, my director, um, it, it, it gave me so much learning that, my first three films were the ninja films. I did things in between, but my first three big films were ninja films. The things that I learned and did on there, I mean, it was, yeah, it was 40 years of knowledge, 50 years of knowledge that I put to practice. So it was a wonderful experience as I moved on. A wonderful experience. You couldn't stump me because I knew how to do things, you know, low budget and high budget. So it was wonderful, and dealing with those people were wonderful. And uh, you know, on Revenge of the Ninja, working with Sam Furstenberg and Sho Kosugi and my DP, who was David Garfinkel, my DP Hananya and the other ninjas, my script supervisor Ronit. We were a team. Uh, we all knew our strengths, and we all listened to each other. And it was a beautiful team. Sho Kosugi at Revenge of the Ninja was wonderful to work with. We became like family. Sho Kosugi was, he's a true master. What made him a master was, he did a lot of live shows. Magic Mountain, a lot of people don't realize this. But he came from martial arts. When he came to United States, California, he worked at Magic Mountain. And if you do a live show consistently, you're doing good because you're in front of an audience. If an audience reacts to an applaud, to excitement, knowing you do good. So Sho Kosugi had so much experience doing that stuff, and I'm from martial art background, and I'm a stunt man, and I did live shows when I was a kid. So we gelled so well, and when it came to the stunts, I did and came up with all the stunts. When it came to the fights, we were a team. And when I put something together, when I wrote something, I would bring it to Sam Furstenberg, and then after Sam Furstenberg put in his thoughts, what he had, I would put that in, and then we would bring it to Sho Kosugi, and then he made his small changes, and then we had a scene to do, and that's what we did. And I would be, as I write in the book, which never happened to me before. I always had a wardrobe, those wardrobe units where wardrobe hangs up all their clothes. I had a movable one wherever I went on those pictures, on those ninja pictures, because I would change. I would say, okay, I need this. I need these clothes. I need a pedestrian. I need a construction worker. I need a suit, So they accumulated so many different kinds of wardrobe because at the spur of the moment, I needed something, or I would take somebody's place, and I would add something, and they would just have a moving wardrobe little unit for me wherever I went. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. But Menachem, let's get back to Menachem. Menachem was a beautiful person. I was very disappointed in the two films that they did about Menachem. Because they didn't.
Yes, the on Canon, the Canon Films documentary.
Yes.
What was it? Electric Boogaloo, wasn't it?
Yeah, because they didn't get into what Menachem was really like. They should have had people that really worked with him, really understood him. I called him the Louis B. Mayer of the '80s. He went by his own horn. He was, nobody could tell him what to do. Nobody could tell him a law. Nobody could tell him the way to do things. I mean, I tell a great story in the book. One day he came on the set, and I was working for Sam Furstenberg. No action that day. He just came to visit. I mean, we had some wonderful conversations, about his daughter. I'm sure you had a good laugh about how his
Yes,
daughter
yes.
felt about me. You know, some people say I should have
Yes.
married her, but I just couldn't bring myself to it. God bless her. But
I think he wanted you to marry his
there was
daughter.
no
He seemed to be
action
quite keen on the idea.
characters, wonderful characters. But uh, and Menachem, I loved Menachem. I really loved Menachem, and I really disappointed. Nobody's ever, got into him and really explained, because he was really a beautiful person. Scared a lot of people to death, but if you
Yeah.
understood him, he was a pussycat. But one day, I tell a story in the book, and I'll tell the audience. One day, no action. I happened to be on the set. Maybe there was action later on in the day, and I was just waiting. One of the few times I was just waiting around. And Menachem came on the set, just flew in, came on the set, and Shmulik was right in the middle of a scene inside the house. And in Hebrew, Menachem told him to sit down. And now, mind you, Shmulik already shot a half a day of this scene. He's just continuing it and working the other angles. But Menachem didn't care. He didn't know what he was shooting. He didn't know how he was shooting. He didn't know anything about it. He told Shmulik to sit down, and he took over directing for the rest of the day. And I'm watching this, and the actors are trying to explain to him, this is not what we shot. I don't care. You just do. I like it this way. Anyway, to make a long story short, everybody just did what Menachem wanted. And at the end of the day, he left. And the next day, Shmulik took over, and he started from the very beginning, where Menachem started, and continued to see. That was Menachem. He called me. He never really called me a lot by my name, Steve. Very rarely. When he first saw me, when he talked to me, when he introduced me, he always called me the crazy man. Crazy man, come here, you crazy man. And then after we talked, he would call me Steve, but he always called me the crazy man. And I tell some wonderful stories about Menachem and I. When I tell a great story with David Womark and I and Sam Furstenberg, when we're sitting having lunch, and Menachem comes to visit us, and he wants to talk to me about Naomi, because Naomi and I weren't getting along, and Naomi was his daughter, and she was head of wardrobe, and she had a crush on me, and it was my fault.
Point, she destroyed some of your suits, didn't she? She destroyed some of the suits that you had, the ninja suits.
Don't tell him the story. Don't tell him what went on.
Oh, yeah, no. I won't say the full story. No, but
who would ever think somebody would do that? But she was Menachem's daughter. But there's some wonderful moments working for Canon. I probably did about eight, 9 films for Canon. I was a stunt coordinator for one day on Electric Boogaloo, and it's a hilarious story. Until Shabadoo found out I was there.
Yeah.
And once Shabadoo found out I was there, it's the first time I was fired. And I said, okay, you can't fire me, but I'll leave. And I got him another stunt coordinator. And I told Shmulik, your star just fired me. What do you mean he fired you? Because your female star told him who I was. And, because we were going out at the time. Lucinda and Dickie and I had a thing for each other. And he was a little insecure about it, so he didn't want me on the set. So I replaced myself with a guy named Tommy Rosales. So I worked one day on Electric Boogaloo. It's a funny story.